welcome to today's edition of Urban Doctor. Last week we were talking about fibroids, and we saw a lot of reactions that you people put in on our number, which is 0755 755 That's the WhatsApp number that you always go through when you're asking your questions. And we read through a number of them, and we realized that we actually have to separate certain issues from fibroids, which was infertility. It came up so many times. If I have fibroids, can I give birth? I've never had this. Do you think I have fibroids because I've never conceived? It was a lot. So we decided to say, no, let's have a separate edition on infertility, and then fibroids is also a different conversation on its own. However, maybe, I don't know, doctor may tell us whether the two can also, one can cause the other or something like that. But that will be only, addressed by the doctor. My name is Darren Bartlett, as usual, and in the studio today I have Dr. Habomugisha Godfrey. He's a gynecologist, but he will be, looking also at if there's any other issue that you might come through, we'll look at it that way. Doctor, how are you doing today?
Fine. How are you?
Not bad.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sparing some time, with the busy schedule you have with patients, for you to come.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
And talk to our audience here. Now, doctor, today's conversation is on infertility or fertility.
Yes.
We can separate the two. We had a conversation about fibroids the other time with Dr. Castro, but this has come through, and we said, no, let's call in Dr. Habomugisha Godfrey, and he helps us understand what this. But to understand what infertility is, first of all, what is infertility?
Yeah, thank you, Darren. I think it's the best to start by defining what infertility is.
Yeah.
Infertility is defined by very many scholars and very many researchers, but we have standard definitions. So we're going to take the definition by WHO, World Health Organization, which describes or defines infertility as conditions, actually they call it disease, of the reproductive system that leads to failure to conceive and bear children for a period of about 12 months or more. That's simple.
12 months or more?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Oh, that means if it's beyond that, so if it's below 12,
yes,
it means that
there could be some things which are not that very serious that can easily be overcome in that period.
Okay.
And finally, conception is achieved and you can get children. But when it goes to continued trying, now, to that 12 months, we add a few things if we want to make it better understandable. That there should be unprotected sexual intercourse in that period, and it should be regular. All right? So regular, unprotected sexual intercourse.
Okay.
Some people actually want to expand a bit on this one. They add that this must be sexual intercourse between adults.
Of course, of course,
anything.
Yeah.
Yes, and these adults must be male and female. All right, and then, as we said, we have that time element, 12 months.
Okay.
And then unprotected.
Okay, doctor, is infertility tied to gender? Is it a male issue or a female?
No,
issue?
if I get your question clear, it's not for one side. Infertility affects both the male and the female. Society tends to look at it as a problem of the female, but infertility is a problem of both sexes. And some areas have suggested that the contribution of male infertility toward this picture may be close to half that problem. So it's also
men.
Yes. So it affects men as much as it
affects women.
Yes. So it's not only a female problem. It's a problem. We take it as a problem of the couple, and which involves the male and the female.
So what causes generally infertility?
Yeah, there could be multiple causes, but maybe we shall dwell more on the common ones.
Okay.
We'll also look at it in the two gender aspects. So maybe we start with the female, who is usually commonly blamed for this. Yes. So ladies tend to, when this thing happens, everyone looks at why is this lady not conceiving? Why is That's what we usually say. But if you go to find that those very ladies who have problems with conceiving, the common things have to do with the release of the ovum, the release of the egg, what is called ovulation. So many ladies may find in their play, if you go investigate and find out facts, you find that maybe they are not releasing this ovum every month as they are supposed to be. The other thing that's becoming more common is problems with the fallopian tubes, specifically blockage of the fallopian tubes. Now, this blockage of the fallopian tubes, well, someone may call it another cause of infertility, is mainly because of infections, germs gaining access to the female reproductive system, moving all the way and affecting the tubes, damaging them and causing them to get scars and get blocked. That's the other thing. You've already mentioned the fibroids.
The fibroids, yeah.
Yes, fibroids is a common factor. Yeah, but the fibroids, it's not just every person who has fibroid gets infertility. No. It depends on where the fibroid is sitting in that uterus, especially those which are very close to the inside of the uterus. They can cause multiple problems, including failure to conceive. But others can just physically compress the beginning of the tubes and block them. Yeah, it's something like that. So fibroids is another factor.
One of those causes.
Yes. The ladies could, this same infection we talked about can affect the inside of the uterus, which we call the endometrium. And the endometrium gets inflamed, it gets scars, it can get all sorts of problems, and it becomes, it does not facilitate implantation of the developing pregnancy. Yes. Problems can be from the nature of the uterus, the way God gave this lady the uterus. Some have abnormalities or conditions that don't favor proper pregnancy, which is conceiving and carrying a pregnancy. There are quite a number of hosts of things. The cervix, the lady's cervix, it could have problems, can have scars. It's the mucus in the cervix. The cervix is the passage that connects the lower part of the reproductive system, the uterus up. To the uterus. So that mucus which is in there has so many characteristics and properties. But some of them is that it may be hostile to the man's sperms. And they just can't cross that place. They come, they are normal, they reach there is a way they get somewhat disorganized and they can't be able to complete the whole process, reach where they're supposed to do their job and cause pregnancy. So all those can be factors in the lady. Yes, but then we also have the man.
The man,
The man, the biggest problem is, now, let's leave performance and other things. Things are clear there. He may have problems with what we call the semen. Semen is the fluid which comes from the man's reproductive system. There are many glands there which combine to form that fluid, and that fluid carries the sperms that come from the testes for nourishing them, for protecting them, for delivering them to where they're supposed to be. So sometimes some produce so small an amount that it cannot do what it's supposed to do. Even if he is producing enough, within there may be very few numbers of sperms, what some scientists may want to call oligospermia. Very few. You know, in every 1 meal of a fertile man, we expect to have not less than 20 million sperms. 20 million sperms.
20 million sperms
yes.
in just 1 meal,
yes.
1 milliliter.
Yes, and we expect the normal amount to be 2 meals to about 5. So you can imagine the numbers that are in there. So those numbers may be few. When they become fewer than that, there may be a difficulty in achieving fertilization.
How many sperms do you think are needed to be able to fertilize an egg?
Now that's the most interesting part of it. Of all those millions, to achieve a pregnancy, it's done by one single sperm. But you see, the whole process of the sperms moving from where they are deposited, the way they travel through the cervix, through the uterus, through the fallopian to reach where the ovum is such a very difficult process. That is that best, strongest, most normal sperm that should do it. the rest drop off along the way. That's why we have those many numbers. That's one of the ways I think the Creator made us in order to be able to keep the best to be able to come out. And so we need many numbers to be able to compete to do that. Now, among these so many numbers, you could have adequate numbers. Now, if you count, you find the number, but they have some abnormalities.
Abnormalities?
Yes. Abnormalities in their shape. We've talked about sperm moving all that distance.
Yeah.
Now they were simulating it to, if a man was to swim a distance, the sperm moves. It would be like dropping a human being at the West African coast, and you tell this man to swim to America.
What?
Across the Atlantic. So it's a big, big job. The sperm must be normal to be able to do that kind of travel. It has to be having good packages of energy and all that to be able to push it. And even when it does that and it reaches there, it has shapes and mechanisms on it that do the job. It may reach that it doesn't have. So just come knock on the egg and bounce off. It's only that sharp sperm that is properly made with a good head, with all the arsenals that it needs, that will be able to do the good job. So they must be normal sperms.
Doctor, are you saying that, because when I hear the word sharp, it means like a sperm has a shape that is kind of sharp-like? So if it's blunt, it means it can't break up.
We may not directly use the word blunt.
You know the terms.
Yeah, there are many terms. We are trying to avoid terms so that we can have a conversation we can follow. Yeah, but on a sperm, once it reaches there, it has something on its tip. You know that picture we normally see.
Yeah, we normally draw in.
That sharp-pointed part has something on top, which is supposed to be able to create the chemical reaction that allows the sperm to go in.
Oh.
So some sperms don't have it. That's why when you look at pictures, they may look round, they may look all that kind of stuff. So that's why we're talking about the shape, the strength, the size, and all that. The tail must be good to do the swimming, must be packaged with energy, and then it has to have those, so the means to be able to penetrate the ovum. So there are many, quite many things in the man. Now, when we are looking at that, then we are looking at how is the sperm made and what are the factors that can cause problems with this sperm. And sometimes it's simple things. Too much alcohol can be a problem.
Really?
Yes. Too much alcohol. Smoking can be a very big problem. I wish we had a lot of time. We're now going to, but we're now mentioning the problem.
It's okay. We can do what we can do today.
Yes.
And then we shall have a follow-up episode to it.
Yes. And you see, the way males are created, even as animals, the female has her factory for eggs hidden deep inside their body. But we, the males, have their factory, the testes, outside the body, actually hanging off the body. There is a purpose. That these sperms should be manufactured in an environment that has a temperature lower than the body temperature.
Okay.
As the best temperature produce good normal sperms. So all those things we do that create too much heat around the testes can cause those abnormalities that can later lead to infertility. So, Mr. Tyrone, sometimes you find us running to saunas, running to what? They can cause issues if we overdo
some of those things.
Yes. So those are something. Then men also can have blockage of their system. Remember, the sperms are produced in the testes. They have to be delivered in a tube, mixed with that fluid, and then go through another long tube, the urethra, to come out. So along the way, there can be scars, they can be blocked. Some can be congenital, person was created like that, but some of them can actually come up because of what we go through, get infections, get injuries, and get those scars. So that's another big problem in the men's side.
Doctor, you've mentioned problems that can cause infertility.
Yes. But
are they reversible?
In some of them, yes. Now, look at a man. The man is continually producing sperms throughout his life. So if you say have a problem of, say, smoking, and one time you say, I've quit, we hope your body should recover and in future things should get fine. The same with alcohol. The only problem, as we said, is if you're created with blocked tubes, like the tube which delivers the sperms from the testes to wherever, then that one has to be managed by specialists, the doctors who handle it, to be able to correct that defect. But some can reverse.
And for the women?
For the women, yes, some conditions, yes, are treatable. You remember, we have infertility, which can be for some time, you attend to her, do this, do the other, and the situation improves and you find the lady starts being able to conceive and continues. So all this we are talking about, we need to find out the real cause in this particular person. We are just now mentioning generally speaking. But once you have a couple who have issues, then we need to sit with this couple and look into them right from where we started. Remember, the unprotected sex and all that, and going to their checking their bodies, doing tests, examinations, and find out what the real problem is. And quite a number of those issues can be addressed and corrected.
Doctor, there are so many scenarios.
Yes.
I have friends of mine and other people who are out there. Even after doing tests and they discover that they are actually normal, conceiving has been a problem.
Yes.
They will go on for years
Yes.
and still not have a baby.
We've seen some of those cases. They are not the commonest, but they do occur. That they've been to different gynecologists, they've been to urologists, they've been everywhere, and they're not finding any problem. There are some infertilities that cannot be properly explained. Even after investigating, find everything looks to be normal.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So then what happens here? What options do you give these patients?
Yeah, you see, many times, maybe now that we shall handle it generally, once you've reached a point of saying, yes, this couple has a problem of fertility, they can't conceive, then you're going to do what interventions you may want to do.
Like?
Many of the interventions is, we can start with treatment. Imagine the lady has some infection, even the man has infection. You first clear that. Make sure there's no infections around, they're all clean. Then you're going into those small details of what could be the problem. And now the management will depend on what is the cause. And remember, we've gone through so many things. So many in a female, so many in a man. So it's that problem that now you address, right? But maybe in this situation you've talked of, you've examined, you've checked and everything seems not nothing is coming up. They seem to be okay, but they're not conceiving. Then you can go ahead and attempt the assisted reproductive treatment. What many times you hear people calling artificial
IVF? Okay.
IVF, yes. So because this one, you are trying to bypass a number of challenges. You're trying to get this ovum and you want to look at it and say, does it look okay? Yes. You want to get these sperms and say, do they look fine? Yes. Can we facilitate them to come together? You okay? Now, once they come together and there is fertilization, then they are still monitored. Are they developing along the right path? Do they look the quality that we want? Then you can get what is developing and put it in the lady's system, and then you hope it will grow. When you've checked and make sure that everything is
okay. Okay. Doctor, I know we don't have a lot of time, but one of the interesting questions that came through, a lady asked that successfully she had a first baby.
Okay.
Very successful, everything was okay. After she failed to conceive the second baby for a long time, she couldn't conceive. Then when she conceived, actually the time she specifies is 3 years, she failed to conceive another one. And then when she conceived, it has been miscarriage after miscarriage. Could it be that she only had one chance to give birth to a healthy kid?
No, that's not true, because you see she actually got miscarriages, but there is a problem somewhere. Maybe first of all, we should also first mention that there is what we may call primary infertility. Couple gets together and right from the start they fail to conceive, and it can be for some years. But then there is the secondary infertility. They may get one child, as you mentioned, then thereafter they fail to conceive. Or they conceive but get miscarriages, as you're mentioning. Maybe let's first look at your scenario you brought of miscarriages. That means that there is something that could have happened that has changed the whole setup in these two people. And what I may think of immediately as you give this example is that we have issues like what we call blood group incompatibilities. You find that a man has his blood group, let's say the common one, O, and usually say O plus, O positive, as they usually say. And then you find the lady is some blood group and it's negative.
Let's say O negative?
Yeah, O negative, A negative, AB, but it's negative. Now that means when she conceives the first time, she's going to carry her child without any problem. And one other thing we need to know that this first child and the mother don't communicate directly in terms of blood.
Yeah.
So the mother's body won't know which blood group. But this child could be carrying the father's blood group, the O positive. The mother is negative. Remember, our bodies never want to carry something that does not belong.
Yeah.
So, but there is a way pregnancy protects itself until the end. This mother will give birth, but in that delivery process, as the placenta comes out, remember the baby has gone. We are now delivering the placenta. That separation between the two may have breakages, and some of those positive baby cells may cross into the mother. And they call it an ABO. That's research sensitization.
Science.
We are not going to that.
Yeah.
So now this may cause the mother's body to develop chemical soldiers that will always fight that positive thing. Because now the body has sensed it as a foreign thing. It has come in, the body has realized this thing is foreign, and it forms those chemical weapons to fight this foreign thing. Now, when this lady subsequently conceives another baby with that positive again, the mother's body will be ready to do the fighting. And that's why you find that situation of recurrent miscarriages because of that.
So if it's done artificially, does it still...
That will be taken care of, obviously.
Or during the process of doing artificial? There was another question. I realized I asked you before we came on camera here, but I think I have to ask it now.
Yes.
We've seen scenarios where couples have been together for a very long time, babies don't come, tested they are normal, and then eventually, when these couples, let's say, separate, because some marriages just break because they think you can't give birth, I need to continue my lineage, and then a man goes separate ways. They both go separate ways. And where they go, they eventually all have kids. So what causes this? The woman now gets pregnant, the man gets this way, he now has babies.
Yes. You're right, it happens. We see it. Though it's not so common, but it happens. Now, you realize we've been talking about factors in the male, factors in the female. Now, let's take these factors as the negative thing. When you get a small negative thing and you add another negative thing from another person, it becomes a bigger negative, it becomes a bigger problem. All right? While if one side was okay and there's one small problem, the other side, maybe it would work. Now, when these two people separate and the environment is different, it's possible to conceive. But still remember, we also talked about the mucus around the cervix.
You talked about something of rejection there.
Yes. So you may find the characteristics of this man's sperms which the ladies' antibodies are rejecting. And the sperms are always being affected. And now you find this gentleman gets another lady and finds a more friendly cervix. And things work. Yes.
But those are like you mentioned, those could be rare cases.
Yes, but I'm hoping that by the time we say this, they've gone through due process and they've actually been properly assessed and found that there is a real problem. Because sometimes they may not have had time to be properly assessed, and there's a small problem that could be addressed and they become fine.
Okay.
Yes, but it also can happen that way.
So it looks like most of the infertility issues we get to realize them post when people are actually have started, they are sexually active and are together. My producer asked me that, how do we know? Is there a possibility of someone testing before they actually get into they get sexually active to know whether they can actually they're able to they're fertile or not?
It's possible. In most cases we assume we are fine. That is the assumption, and therefore people don't want to subject themselves to so many things, to this and that. One of the challenges is that to prove that, you may have to do invasive things, to go into the body, check this, this and that, and many people think it's not necessary at this stage. I'm fine, and they want to try. So until they've tried and it has proved that things are not working, you know, even when things are not working, we've given the definition, we put time of 12 months. But many times you find couples who have gone 3 years and they've not done anything. And many times you find they are hesitating. They don't want that. You know, when I go, then they will start doing ABC. They say, let's be trying. Yeah, but if a couple says, no, for us we want to first check and see if everything is okay. There are certain basic things that we can go through with them and say, if ABC are all right in both of you, we think there's no big problem until it's proved by something else.
Thank you so much, Dr. Habemugisha. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of the show, but it's a still long conversation. We're hoping that you come back next week so that we can go through quite a number of things a number of questions that have come through. So we do a whole series on infertility here with you. Thank you so much for sparing the time. Guys, we've come to the end of the show, but keep those questions coming through 0755 755 Ask your questions on infertility, and Doctor will be here to respond to them. For now, I want to say have a good night. See you next week.